Greetings friends and welcome to Lore of the Cards, the series that seeks to teach you the lore hidden within your Hearthstone deck. We will again be looking at Vol'jin this episode, uncovering more of his epic tale. If you haven't seen part 1 and are unfamiliar with the characters connected with Vol'jin, I strongly suggest you watch that first, as any explanations missing in this video will very likely be found there. This episode, we will be looking at how Vol'jin and the Darkspear settled into their new home in Durotan, and the struggle Vol'jin and his people had to face just to keep that home. So, without any further delays, here it is, Vol'jin Part 2. In Warcraft 3, the Sea Witch's forces bared down upon the orcs and trolls as they frantically prepared their ships to be seaworthy. Not only this, but the volcano upon the Darkspear Island had erupted and the landmass was slowly sinking to the ocean floor. It seems that this eruption was added to the game to increase the tension of the mission, as canonic lore plays out a little differently. The orcs left, followed by a large group of trolls, but Vol'jin was not among them, trusting in Thrall to lead his people wisely. To thank the Orc Warchief for saving them, Vol'jin had pledged the Darkspear to the Horde. He remained behind on the Darkspear Isle, facing the wrath of the Sea Witch. Vol'jin wanted to ensure that all his people had left safely before he too decided to leave. He also desperately sought vengeance upon Zarjira for murdering his father in cold blood. This meant he would not be present for several events that would shape the Horde as we know it today. The joining of the Tauren, the Orcs killing Manaroth to free themselves of their demonic curse, and the second defeat of the Burning Legion during the Battle of Hyjal. The Legion, a force that seeks to destroy the order created in the wake of the Titans, had invaded Azeroth before, but been defeated. This invasion started on the Eastern Kingdoms, the reason why the Orcs had been told to flee. Even so, after obliterating much of the East, the Legion sailed to Kalimdor to bring all of Azeroth to its knees. But the combined forces of the Orcs, Tauren, Trolls, Night Elves, Humans and more were able to defeat the Legion again and destroy one of their key commanders, Archimonde the Defiler. After the defeat of the Legion, Vol'jin was able to lead the rest of his people from the Darkspear Island. They settled on the Echo Isles, a small cluster of islands on the outskirts of Durotan, a continent of Kalimdor which Thrall had named in honour of his late father, Durotan. Vol'jin was unable to achieve his vengeance against Zarjira. Thrall and Vol'jin set about creating a new life for their people, the Orcs constructing the massive Horde capital of Orgrimmar, the city of Vol'jin's first vision. But they found their peace yet again disturbed. Humans had begun to encroach on Horde territory. This behaviour was odd, as Thrall and Jaina Proudmoore, leader of the Alliance forces at the Battle of Hyjal, had a peaceful pact between each other. The two had become close friends after the fight with the Legion. The fact that Jaina appeared to no longer be honouring their pact was very strange. Thrall had been fortunate enough to meet the Mok Nathal, half orc, half ogre, Rexxar at around the same time. Rexxar agreed to go and see what the humans were up to, but as he neared where they had made landfall, he was met with a horrifying sight. An orc settlement on the outskirts of Durotan had been razed to the ground, all the soldiers slaughtered by the humans. Rexxar and his companions, Rokan, a great Darkspear scout and shadow hunter given to Thrall by Vol'jin, and Chen Stormstout, a Pandaren who was not only a master fighter but could brew a mean ale, dealt swift vengeance to the humans. In the wake of the battle, Rexxar noticed that the humans bore an anchor symbol on their armour. A symbol Thrall could not place, though he did admit it seemed familiar. Rokan voiced his concern for his tribe. If the humans had come in by sea, then surely the Darkspear's islands would be taking the brunt of their assault. Also concerned for his allies, Thrall sent the three companions to aid the trolls. When they arrived, flying to the island by Zeppelin, the Darkspear were under attack from all sides. The mighty battleships of the human fleet sat out of reach of the trolls, bombarding their homes from the sea. Rexxar rendezvoused with Vol'jin. The chieftain, with Rexxar and friends present, was able to enact a plan to allow his people to evacuate the islands, as the Darkspear alone were no match for the human fleet. For this plan to work, Vol'jin showcased his incredible power, using his magics to transform Rexxar and company into 3 wyverns.
I be Vol'jin, leader of the Darkspear tribe. It be good that the war chief sent you when he did, man. Our villages already be under attack by the human fleet. We got no time to waste. Even now, the humans' battleships be blasting away at our coastal villages.
You have little chance of defeating such a force on your own, Vol'jin. You should evacuate your tribe to the mainland and unite with the war chief's forces.
Though I hate to be abandoning our homes, your plan be a wise one. However, we got to destroy those battleships before the evacuation can begin. Oh, these wily ones will serve you well, man. Their talent for destruction be mighty.
We have no flying mounts, Vol'jin. We'll be useless on land.
Oh, won't be a problem, man. Now, this be feeling a bit strange.
This way, the 3 heroes were able to lead a small Darkspear force of Bat Riders round the islands, destroying the human battleships. Before the human forces could regroup, Vol'jin sent Rexxar along with a few Darkspear soldiers to activate the signal fires. This let his people know it was safe to leave the islands. Even this task was no walk in the park, as Rexxar and his companions had to slay several sea giants to reach the fires. Vol'jin led his people to the shores of Durotan and set up a temporary encampment. He was later again joined by Rexxar and his friends, who had been sent by Thrall. Thrall could not believe Jaina would betray their pact, so had sent Rexxar to talk with her directly. However, the hostile human forces were not going to let him travel to her city of Theramore without a fight. Vol'jin had devised a plan to allow Rexxar to sneak past the large human encampment between them and Theramore, and sent him to meet the Orc Blademaster, Samuro. Vol'jin had entrusted the Blademaster with several explosive wards, which were to be planted within key positions of the humans' base. Being a Blademaster, Samuro was adept at stealth and trickery. He was able to turn invisible at a moment's notice and create several copies of himself to confuse his adversaries. With the explosives successfully placed, they were all detonated at the same time, throwing the human camp into chaos, which allowed Rexxar, Rokan and Chen to slip through undetected. As suspected, Jaina was not behind these attacks. When she was confronted with the symbol of the anchor, she knew exactly who it was. The kingdom of Kul Tiras, her father Daelin Proudmoore's kingdom. They had attacked the Darkspear Island, and now he was searching for his daughter. Upon this realization, Daelin entered the city of Theramore, shocked to find Jaina conversing with members of the Horde, races he'd spent a good portion of his life fighting in long bloody wars. He tried to kill Rexxar, but with a little help from Jaina, he was able to escape. Daelin then claimed Theramore as his base of operations to fight the Horde from. Vol'jin continued to aid Thrall against the human invasion, and acted as a wise advisor to Rexxar, Rokan and Chen. He advised to reach out to Cairn Bloodhoof and the Tauren in the Orcs' time of need. At first, Cairn was unable to aid the Horde as he was stricken by grief, his son Bane having been recently captured by the ravenous centaur and suspected dead. When Rexxar was able to free Bane, Cairn's mood immediately lifted and the Tauren were committed to Durotar's defence, Cairn himself leaving straight away to aid Rexxar. While Rexxar was receiving aid from the Tauren, Vol'jin and his forces happened across a wounded ogre of the Stonewall clan and brought him back to their village. By the time Rexxar arrived back, the ogre was able to speak. He had recently been cast out from his clan, a tyrannical ruler called Korgal taking over as chieftain. Rexxar agreed to dispose of this new chieftain and saw a golden opportunity to draft in new allies for the Horde. As a half-breed, Rexxar was able to try and join the clan, and after a trial of strength was allowed in. He asked Korgal to rally the ogre forces and send them to aid the Horde, but Korgal, claiming the orcs were weak, refused. Rexxar challenged his leadership with a fight to the death. Emerging victorious, he was now the leader of the Stonewall and mobilised them to join the Horde forces. With these allies gathered, the Horde were able to push the humans off their territory and assault the city of Theramore. Thrall met with Jaina before the battle, and she understood the necessity of what was to come. She loved her father dearly, but he would never stop hounding the orcs, who now sought to live in peace. For the Horde to survive, Daelin must die. She did, however, ask Thrall to spare her men if he could, as they were the only family she had and would have left. Thrall promised that he would do all that he could to spare them, and with that the full might of the Horde was thrown at Theramore. The long bloody battle ended with the death of Jaina's father. With him dead, the Horde immediately left to allow the humans to rebuild. The human threat vanquished, Vol'jin led his people back to the Echo Isles. Vol'jin's friend Zalazane had been mastering the art of the Witch Doctor quickly. Perhaps too quickly. As a result, Zalazane had started to become driven mad by his own power, and in a bid to realise his power, betrayed Vol'jin. With his mastery of voodoo, Zalazane was able to manipulate a large portion of the Darkspear into following his commands, brainwashing them against the rest of the tribe. His spell quickly engulfed over half the trolls, and rather than see the rest of his people come under the sway of this mad witch doctor, Vol'jin led them off the Isles. Once again chased out of their home, Vol'jin founded sen'jin village on the shores of Durotan, named in honour of his father, to strike back at the treacherous witch doctor. Before a counterattack could be launched though, Vol'jin was called to Orgrimmar by Thrall to act as his advisor, leaving Zalazane's old tutor Gadrin in command of sen'jin village. Gadrin had been a sage advisor to Vol'jin, and was just as committed as he was to ending Zalazane and putting the tortured souls of his brethren to rest. A fair amount of time would pass, however, before the Darkspear could retake their home, as their forces would be spread out all over Azeroth in service of the Horde. During the vanilla game and World of Warcraft's first expansion, Vol'jin's story took a back seat. He resided in Thrall's fortress, offering his warchief sound advice to help secure the Horde's place in Kalimdor. He was also able to offer insight when fighting other jungle trolls that used to be part of the Gurubashi Empire, once again under the influence of Hakar. Vol'jin knew that the troll-killing sword troll Kala would strike fear into their hearts. While Hakar did this time manifest in physical form, the heroes of Azeroth were able to defeat the Soulflayer. In Thrall's presence, Vol'jin learnt a lot about trusting in one's allies, and the two developed a strong friendship. Thrall's kindly influence saw the Darkspear leave a lot of their savage nature behind. Many troll tribes are known to practice cannibalism. The Darkspear were forbade from practicing this after joining the Horde. Other tribes will seek to isolate themselves and be hostile to outsiders, including other trolls. The Darkspear under the Horde's guidance are one of the few open tribes, lending aid to their allies and able to welcome assistance when they themselves are in jeopardy. Learning from Thrall and Ken, Vol'jin became just as wise and diplomatic as these two, at heart, gentle giants. In the Wrath of the Lich King expansion, Vol'jin's story in WoW began to develop further. After the Lich King attacked Orgrimmar, Thrall sent Garrosh Hellscream to lead the forces of the Horde against the ruler who controlled the undead in his home continent of Northrend. Vol'jin remained behind, but he would be needed by his warchief. As both the Horde and Alliance attacked the back entrance of the Lich King's very own fortress, both factions were betrayed by several members of the Forsaken. The Forsaken are a Horde-based race of undead who had broken free of the Lich King's command, led by Sylvanas Windrunner. On her rise to power, Sylvanas had forced the demon Varimathras into serving as her right hand, but Varimathras had had enough. With help from the High Apothecary Putress, Varimathras took control of a majority of the Forsaken and betrayed his queen. As Putress released a plague upon the Alliance and Horde in Northrend, Varimathras staged a coup in the Forsaken capital of the Undercity. Vol'jin was the first major Horde leader to arrive at the Undercity, maintaining the Horde presence outside with artillery and a few grunts. Thrall and Sylvanas arrived together and led the attack, while Vol'jin held his position, directing any heroes that arrived late into the Undercity to take back the Forsaken capital. Varimathras was defeated, and the Undercity once again belonged to the Banshee Queen Sylvanas. Garrosh and Saurfang led a successful campaign in Northrend, the Alliance and Horde defeating the Lich King. In the relative peace that followed, Vol'jin saw an opportunity to claim back his tribe's island home from Zalazane. Gadrin had been doing his best with limited resources, but had no great success. Now that the Darkspear forces were not committed in Northrend, they could launch a full-scale attack on the Echo Isles. A proclamation was sent out across the Horde to gather allies, and it was finally time for the Darkspear to claim back one of their homes that they had been driven from. Using sen'jin village as a base of operations, heroes of the Darkspear and other Horde races gathered, and Vol'jin put his plan into action. With help from the troll shaman Venera, Vol'jin was able to scout out Zalazane's territory, Venera able to use frogs as spies. These frogs were able to make a very interesting discovery. As Horde heroes ventured onto the outer islands of the Echo Isles, they were able to recruit Zentabra to the cause, one of the first troll druids. The druids were a group of witch doctors who just before the time of Zalazane's betrayal were unable to commune with the lower as they once did. They were unaware that Zalazane was cutting off their connection to the lower, and thought it was the spirits themselves that were angry. When Zalazane acted on his plan to control the Echo Isles, Zentabra and her witch doctors did not heed Vol'jin's call for retreat, shamed by their inability to contact the spirits and how they had been powerless to stop Zalazane. The witch doctors did retreat, but only to the southern areas of the Echo Isles. On the same night, Zentabra received a vision. The ancient raptor lower, Gonk, approached and transported the witch doctors to the Emerald Dream, a dimension that depicts Azeroth as it would have been if no living creatures had changed its appearance. Within this realm, Gonk informed the witch doctors that Zalazane's brainwashed slaves were killing the creatures of the Echo Isles, and he asked the witch doctors to help. Since they were unable to commune with the spirits as they once did, the trolls began to study druidism. The training was surprisingly quick, it being hastened along by being in the Emerald Dream. Once trained, the druids stayed on the Echo Isles, trying their best to avoid Zalazane's mindless followers and keep the natural life of the Isles alive, until the time of Vol'jin's return. Vol'jin sent the Darkspear champion Aruzin to draft in regular troll citizens from neighbouring towns to aid the warriors in claiming back their home in Durotan. With additional strength gathered, Vol'jin led his force into the heart of Zalazane's territory. As Vol'jin's forces pressed on, he was made aware by his witch doctor Hestok, who had been communing with the spirits of the isle, of a being that could seal victory for his force. Kwon Samdi, Darkspear lower of the dead. Vol'jin needed to make amends with the lower. Kwon Samdi watched over the spirits of the dead Darkspear, and in return he was given ritual offerings. Since Zalazane had driven the Darkspear away, Kwon Samdi had not been given the penance for his vigil. The lower tested Vol'jin and his forces in battle, judging them worthy of his aid. After Vol'jin defeated Zalazane's lieutenant, Jiundo the traitor, on another island, the ancient discarded masts and spears of the Darkspear rattled to life, possessed by the spirits of trolls long and newly past. One Samedi had awakened them to join Vol'jin's army. One foe remained. After an arduous struggle, Zalazane retreated, hiding away on another island. Zentabra scouted his location and informed Vol'jin that Zalazane appeared to be invoking dark magics. Vol'jin led his forces to once again meet Zalazane in battle, but before attacking, he offered his oldest friend one more chance to surrender. Zalazane revealed he had not been running, but had lured Vol'jin and his forces into a trap. Unleashing his powerful hex, the mad witch doctor was able to dominate the mind of all of the Darkspear Trolls, bar the most powerful amongst them. Vol'jin and his allies were forced to kill their own, or they would be the ones to fall. The possessed Darkspear dead, Zalazane gloated, as he was behind a shield no living thing could penetrate. A chilling laughter filled the air as one Samedi revealed himself. Raising the recently defeated Darkspear as zombies, they swarmed Zalazane, breaking through his shield and tearing the treacherous troll apart. Vol'jin, after much bloodshed, had finally been able to reclaim the home of his people. Not long after Vol'jin was able to win back his people's home, he was called to Orgrimmar to meet with Thrall, Garrosh and Eitrigg, an aged orc warrior that acted as one of Thrall's advisors. Thrall had made a monumental decision. Preceding this meeting, the elements of Azeroth had been in flux. Thrall as a shaman was particularly sensitive to the change. Erratic earthquakes scattered over Azeroth, and portals would open randomly all over the world, hostile elementals passing through them. Not only this, groups of cultists were preaching the end days, causing unrest among the general populace. Thrall knew that this was only the tip of the iceberg, and decided to leave for the world of Outland to consult the elements there about what may be happening. Outland was a broken world, and the elementals there would have experienced great unrest. As a result, Thrall knew he could learn from them and find out what may be in store for Azeroth. To do this and embark on the quest that may follow, Thrall could be gone weeks, even months, from the city of Orgrimmar. As a result, he would need to hand over the mantle of War Chief in his absence. Thrall had already made a decision, and had called his most trusted advisors to inform them. Thrall chose Garrosh Hellscream, son of the orc who had been like a brother to Thrall, Grom Hellscream. Thrall thought the Horde needed a war hero in this time of uncertainty to restore their pride. Garrosh certainly fit this description, as he had just led an extremely successful campaign against one of the greatest evils Azeroth had ever seen. This choice was not without its objections, even from Garrosh himself. Vol'jin ventured that this may not be the most prudent decision for the Horde. Garrosh immediately sneered at this. He would surely make a worthier leader than Vol'jin. He'd helped defeat the Lich King, and all Vol'jin had done was get his islands back from one troll witch doctor. Luckily, Eitrigg was there to calm the situation. Thrall said Garrosh would not need to fear his new position of leadership if he listened to the wise counsel of his advisors, Vol'jin, Eitrigg and Cairn. He would learn quickly not only to be a great commander, but a great leader, and with that, Garrosh was made War Chief of the Horde. Just before Thrall left for Outland, he met with Cairn, who also was concerned about his decision for War Chief. Cairn had witnessed how brutal and merciless Garrosh could be, but Thrall stood by the young orc. The orcs of the Horde needed a war hero to look up to, and he was sceptical that the orcs would want to follow a non-orcish war chief. The two, unable to agree, parted ways, and Thrall began his journey to Outland. So, there you have it, Vol'jin Part 2. How will the chieftain of the Darkspear cope without his friend at the helm of the Horde? Find out next time in Part 3 of his tale. If you have enjoyed this episode, a like, subscribe and better yet a share would be massively appreciated. If you've hated it, then you can give me a virtual middle finger by hitting the dislike button. I feed off your pain. All artists I've been able to find are in the description below, so if you've enjoyed their work, go check them out. To keep up to date on the progress of Lore of the Cards, you can always follow us on Twitter, @the6gamers. And if you want to help a noob get better at playing Hearthstone, I've just recently started playing Ranked and would appreciate any feedback. Till next time guys, keep on Hearthstoning, and I'll see you for more Lore of the Cards.